we have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And, you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but the price, we think the price is worth it.
On August the 2nd, 1990, after a dispute over shared oil fields, Iraq invaded Kuwait. 4 days later, the United Nations Security Council imposed economic sanctions, the most comprehensive in modern history. Almost everything was denied the people of Iraq, including, for the first 8 months, food and medicine. Today, 10 years later, sanctions are still in place, and the United Nations reports widespread chronic malnutrition and death among young children, an unprecedented human rights disaster. The stated aim of the sanctions is to eradicate Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. Just before last Christmas, the Department of Trade and Industry in London blocked a shipment of vaccines intended to protect Iraqi children against yellow fever and diphtheria. The vaccines, said the minister, are capable of being used in weapons of mass destruction. This is Dennis Halliday, former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, the man in charge of the humanitarian operation in Iraq. In 1998, he resigned, accusing the West of destroying a whole society. We took him on his first trip back. In the cancer clinic of this hospital in Baghdad, he had a remarkable reunion with a young girl whose life he helped to save.
John, this is Safa Majid and her father, who is Majid Ali. Safa I met 2 years ago in this hospital when she was in very poor condition of leukemia. And one cannot deal with thousands, but one can deal with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 children. And I was able, with the help of the World Health Organization, to bring in drugs, although be it illegally, from overseas. Enough for 2 years of treatment for this little girl. And today she looks wonderful and beautiful, and she has only now treatment once every month. So I think she's almost cured of leukemia.
She was one of 4, wasn't she?
One of 4.
Tell me about the others.
Well, within the first 5 weeks of meeting these 4 children, 2 died simply for lack of medications, or it was too late, in fact, to save their lives. And there were 2 little girls, including Safa, who have survived.
Why did they die?
They died because they had sophisticated problems which the medications were not available.
And when you set out to help these children, you were the United Nations representative here.
That's right.
And to do it, what you're saying is you had to act illegally.
I had to breach my own economic sanctions, so to speak, established by the Security Council, as we know, led by Washington and by London. I think in this hospital we've seen today evidence of the killing that is now the responsibility of the Security Council member states. Particularly, I think, Bill Clinton and Tony Blair. They should be here with us. They should see the impact of what their decisions and their sustaining of economic sanctions means. The very provisions of the Charter and the Declaration of Human Rights have been set aside. And we are waging a warfare through the United Nations on the children and people of Iraq with incredible results. Results that you do not expect to see in a war under the Geneva Conventions. We're targeting civilians, worse, we're targeting children like Safa, who of course were not born when Iraq went into Kuwait. I mean, what is this about? It's a monstrous situation for the United Nations, for the Western world, for all of us who are part of some democratic system, who are, in fact, responsible for the policies of our governments and the implementation of economic sanctions on Iraq.
When the U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, was asked on American television if she thought the death of more than 500,000 children was a price worth paying, she replied, "We think the price is worth it."